Marines have been killed in Afghanistan this past week, 3 of them from Camp Pendleton. They were among the thousands of Marines taking part in the U.S. surge in Afghanistan. Tony Perry is the San Diego bureau chief for the Los Angeles Times. He's just returned from Afghanistan, and he joins me now to tell us what he saw there while reporting. Tony, give us an update now about the situation in Afghanistan, particularly Helmand Province, the area where you were reporting from.
Indeed. There are 20,000 Marines and sailors in Helmand Province, which is southwest of Kabul. 10,000 of those are from Camp Pendleton. Helmand Province is very important. It is the spiritual home, if you will, of the Taliban. It's also where the heroin crop, the poppy crop, is grown that funds both the Taliban and a rather thriving narco-criminal enterprise there. And the Marines moved into Helmand in large numbers last summer, about 14 months ago now. And the battle is on. And as you indicated, 8 Marines dead in the last 7 to 10 days, more coming. It is a long, difficult battle. Early predictions that it could be won quickly have not come to fruition. It's going to take a long time. The Marines from Camp Pendleton, those Marines that are there now, they've been told by the Commandant of the Marine Corps, expect to come back 2 times, 3 times, maybe 4 times until this job is done.
Tony, I remember speaking with you months back when this surge began, and you described the difficulty of the mission because it was sort of twofold in terms of what troops had to do, which was really win the people over. How's that going?
One general refers to the mission as 3 cups of tea and close air support. That is to say, win hearts and minds, but also engage and destroy those elements that are fighting. And that's a very difficult mission, particularly the former part of it, the 3 cups of tea, without much of a partner in the Afghan provincial or national governments. They have not really swooped in as the Marines and in the U.S. had hoped and set up a government to win the allegiance of the people. That's a very difficult progress to be achieved. The Commandant of the Marine Corps, I was tagging along with him for a while. He is telling the young Marines 2014, 2015, that's how long this thing is going to take. Now, the decision isn't his. The decision is up to the Commander-in-Chief, and if he wants them out earlier, they'll come out earlier. But if we have decided as a political body that we need certain things to occur in Afghanistan, we need to shape events in Afghanistan for our own national security, it's going to take a while.
What did the troops tell you? Our local troops who you're there talking to daily?
Morale is a hard thing to gauge. Morale really is not really contingent upon geopolitical concerns, but rather such things as how's the food and how's the sergeant that you work for. I sense morale is good. They feel reinforced by their own leadership that they're doing something important and doing it well. But there's also the grim reality. They know they're going to be coming back. Now, at this point, with 20,000 Marines there, as opposed to 26,000 at the height in Iraq, they can look for what they call a 2-to-1 dwell. That is to say, 7 months in Afghanistan, 14 months home, 7 more in Afghanistan. In Iraq, it was 1-to-1, 7 and 7 and 7 and 7. But the Commandant of the Marine Corps believes that at 2-to-1, he can sustain this troop level of 20,000 for a long, long time.
You talked about morale. So the report was released this week by the Department of Defense. It talked about suicide rates among veterans. They're increasing, especially high among Marines. Is this, how did you react when you saw the results of this report?
We've seen this coming. Last year in 2009, there were 52 confirmed suicides in the Marine Corps. The year before, there were 42. Marine Corps has tried all sorts of things, anti-suicide videos, more training, getting the non-commissioned officers involved. And indeed, as I say, I was traveling for a while with the Commandant of the Marine Corps and the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, the top enlisted man, Carlton Kent. And one of the lessons he was driving home to the young Marines is suicide awareness. Watch your buddy. When you see him going down for the count, when you see him talking negative, when you hear him talking, I don't have anything to live for, intervene and intervene quickly. Get the gunnery sergeant involved, get the chaplain involved, get the chain of command involved. It's a very difficult problem, particularly as the long war, as they call it, continues. And these young men, many of them 20, 21 years old, all they've known since graduating from high school is war. It's very difficult.
I want to talk about some of the photographs that you brought with you. We want to show them to our viewers
Sure.
at home. And as we go through them, if you can just sort of tell us a little bit about who's in the photo and where
Sure.
they are. So let's begin here. I think we have, is it Marine Commandant?
That's Commandant of the Marine Corps on the right, General James Conway. On the left is the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, the top enlisted men, Carlton Kent. They are talking to Marines in Helmand Province. This is what they did in about 10 different spots. They came, they said, young men, you're doing quite a good job. Any questions? And there were questions from A to Z. There were questions about don't ask, don't tell. There were questions about the tattoo policy. There were questions specifically about job classifications. These are the Kabul training camp recruits. These are Afghans training to take part in their own self-defense of their country with the Afghan army. A long process. They need to have as many trained in the next 14 months as they've trained in 8 years. Here again is Conway. There's another general to his left, a couple more Marines on his right, and then an Afghan officer. They're checking out this training. Training is going slowly. This is a mullah, an important man, a big medicine kind of guy in Nawa, which is a city in Helmand Province where a lot of progress is being done. Here he is saying, are you going home soon? He says, President Obama says you're going in July 2001. Please don't go. Conway said, we're not going. And here, this is the result of American foreign policy. That's Lance Corporal Kevin Oratowski. That's his flag-draped casket being loaded on a C-130. A Lance Corporal from Camp Pendleton. His remains were being taken home to his family in Wheaton, Illinois. If we have decided this is the foreign policy that we need to protect our country, hitch up your pants. It's going to take a while, it's going to cost money, and young men like we just saw are going to die. If we decide this is what we need to do, look the consequences in the face. If we decide we don't need it, that's a whole other question.
Tony Perry, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.